Hi everybody, I'm John Carver for FlyRodFanatic.com, and we have our fly rod wrapped. The tip top is not yet done. We're going to save that for a little bit later. But we've wrapped all of the guides, all of the snake guides and stripper guides and hook keeper on the rod using the techniques that we showed in the previous videos. We've even put in a few small decorative wraps and a few key areas on the rod, and we'll talk about those in just a moment. But the rod's looking really good. We use this olive thread with some gold metallic decorative thread, and it's really sharp. So let's just show you a close-up of what we have here. Okay, so first, this is the hook keeper wrap, and what we did here was we used a folding hook keeper. I prefer the folding hook keepers instead of just a simple loop because it allows you to really keep your hook, the hook point, away from the rod blank. So we put a small gold decorative wrap on either side of this hook keeper wrap. Now, behind the scenes, what we did was we started a wrap. There's maybe 10 wraps of gold there, and then we put the hook keeper into place with some tape, and then wrapped it with this green thread, and then did another 10 wraps of gold. You may notice that there's still some thread hanging out here, and you'll also notice that on every one of the wraps there's still some thread hanging off. In some of the books and videos that are out there, they show you how to start a wrap, how to stop a wrap, and in nearly every case what they do is they cut the thread off flush when they're done with that wrap. Well, guess what? As you're building this rod, as you're twisting it, as you're focusing on one wrap, you may be inadvertently rubbing another wrap on an upright, or maybe you're trying to tweak the guides a little bit, trying to achieve that final straightness. There's all kinds of things that you could do to cause these wraps to loosen up. Okay? So if you've cut that thread off flush and that rod loosens up, you're pretty much going to have to rewrap the entire thing. So I usually leave my tag ends in place until I'm just about ready to start the epoxying process. So that's why you'll see little pieces of thread hanging off. This is just a habit that I've developed. You know, you of course do whatever you want, but I always end up thanking myself if I leave these tag ends in place, because it gives me something to tug on, to tighten up that wrap should it come loose for any reason. So here are these snake guide wraps. We don't do any decorative wraps on the snake guides typically. Here is also the ferrule wrap, and this is where this is the female end. The male end of the lower section of this rod is going to feed in right here when you assemble this rod, and I've put a good 2.5–3 inches of wrapping on that ferrule, and that's to reinforce it. In addition, I took the time to put a little bit of gold wrap on there, and that's handy when you are, you know, when you're fishing this rod and you're ready to break it down. At a glance, you can see where that junction is. Okay, so now we're going to talk about getting these guides straight. We know we need to still put the tip top on this rod, and we need to make sure that it's straight along, you know, with the other guides. But we can't put that tip top on until we're satisfied that our guides are straight. So typically you're going to be doing this outside. You're going to assemble the entire rod, and you're going to take it outside. Typically you can achieve very straight aligned guides along the shaft of the rod by just eyeballing it. And sometimes it's helpful to have someone else's eyeballs on it as well. So I'm just going to show you the technique that I use. Some people have tried to make this a heck of a lot more complicated than it really is. I've seen people trying to use laser pointers. I've seen people trying to lay the rod on its side and compare, you know, the distance away from the table that the guide is. Well, that doesn't help because each each one of your guides is a different size. So you can really drive yourself nuts over this, trying to achieve that final straightness, but really just use your eyeball, take it outside, find a light background, a retaining wall, or something like that, the side of a house, some nice bright surface. Go ahead and put the reel on there, because this is this thing here, the reel seat, the slot that the foot goes in. That's non-negotiable. It's glued into place. Okay, so what you really need to do at this point is make sure that these guides are aligned with the reel at this point. Okay, so we've put a reel on here instead of just trying to look at the gap created by this foot, because I want a large sight picture and something to give me the context that I need to make sure that things are straight. So at this point, I can eyeball this. I can see that my hook wrap, my hook keeper can come over just a little bit. That's something that I can take care of manually. But my stripping guide both of my stripping guides are aligned. They are pointing directly up as I'm holding the reel directly up. And so, typically I would take this outside, I would assemble the entire rod, and then I would just look at it like this. I would sight along it like you would sight along a rifle. And then I would, slowly begin raising the rod. So as you're looking straight down it, all the other guides are obscured by the first guide. But as you raise that rod, the other guides begin to come into your view. And as they pop up and come into your view, you just need to make sure that they're straight. Invariably, you're going to want to make some kind of adjustments. So what you need to do is just, you can tweak these. Just provide a little bit of pressure and just begin nudging them back and forth here. This is typically called tweaking the guides. And this is that step where sometimes you end up hitting this thread and loosening it up. And that's why I leave these tag ends here, so I can tug them back into place and tighten up those wraps really good. So just, tweak these back and forth until you, achieve that final straightness. Now, special care needs to be taken on the tip of the rod, because we're getting pretty delicate here. For this reason, I don't apply the same amount of thread tension to these wraps that I apply to my stripping wraps. These are just a little bit looser because there is so little rod blank here to work with that if you make these super tight, you are not going to be able to tweak these back and forth to achieve your final straightness. Not only that, but if you end up applying a lot of force, what you're doing is you're applying a lot of very unnatural force to this rod. This rod was designed to bend back and forth. It was not designed to be twisted and tweaked. Okay, so you want to be very, very careful. I've seen quite a few people break their tip sections trying to apply too much force to straighten these. But you do this the same way. You achieve the straightness that you want by finding a nice background, holding the rod still, lifting it up slowly. And we've already gone through this process. These are already pretty straight. So at this point, these guides are straight. We're happy with them. Now we've got a nice long sight picture of straight guides to use for putting the tip top on. Don't put the tip top on until you are totally happy with all these guides being straight along the belly of the rod.